The first connection between Canada and Australia was the deportation of 154 Canadian rebels to Australia in the 1800s. Since then, the countries have developed strong ties, having fought alongside each other in multiple wars and UN Security Council missions. This is Alex, an Aussie with Canadian family. I wanted to objectively compare these countries to see which is more livable. So looking at education, employment, health, happiness, and safety and security, let's compare. Keep in mind that these figures are based on country-wide data. Obviously, there's huge variations within both countries based on demographics such as location and wealth. And I hate that I feel I need to say this, but at the end of the day, this is just a video on YouTube. Your situation is unique, and your identity is more than your country or these numbers. So let's keep the comment section friendly. Australia and Canada both have strong education systems that are far better than most developed countries. The elementary school PISA rankings score Australia at 14 out of 70 countries, slightly lower than previous years. Canada, however, is in the top 10 with a rank of 7. When looking at tertiary completion, Canada ranks first out of all of the OECD countries. 56% of Canadians between the ages of 25 and 64 have completed tertiary education. Australia is ranked 7th, with 44% of this age having tertiary education. The number of graduates alone don't tell the whole story. In terms of quality of universities, Australia outperforms Canada. Of the top 200 universities, Australia has 8 compared to Canada's 6. When considering population, Australia has 1 top uni per 300,000 people, compared to 1 per 600,000 in Canada. However, quality sometimes comes at a price. The annual cost of studying at universities in Australia is 33% of the median income, whereas in Canada it's only 22%. Outside of the UK and the US, Australia and Canada are 2 of the most expensive countries to study at the university level. In terms of the economy, both of these countries are a similar size. Canada has the 10th largest GDP, while Australia has the 13th largest. Both of them are just 1/10 of the US GDP. Employment levels are high in both countries. However, with an unemployment rate of 5.5% compared to Canada's 5.9%, Australia has proportionally more people employed. The average wage in Australia is also better than Canada, at $49,000 US, compared to Canada at $48,000. And while personal tax rates vary based on individual situations, KPMG lists the individual income tax rate in Australia at 45%, which is much higher than Canada at 33%. Numbero's Cost of Living Index lists Australia as a more expensive country to live in, with a rank of 15 out of 121 countries, compared to Canada at 25. From a health perspective, again both countries are quite similar. Obesity rates are terrible in both countries. 29% of Australians are obese, and 29.4% of Canadians are obese, close enough to call it a tie. Maternal mortality, that is, the number of mothers who die per 100,000 live births, is very low in both countries. Just 7 per 100,000 in Canada, and 6 per 100,000 in Australia. Infant mortality, the percentage of children who die before the age of 5, is low in both countries. 0.5% in Canada and 0.4% in Australia. Life expectancy figures show that the average Canadian lives to 81.7 years, compared to the average Australian at 82.15 years. So the average Aussie lives an extra 4.5 months. In the safety and security category, Canada outperforms Australia. They have a global terrorism index rating of just 2.5, compared to 2.7 in Australia. Homicide rates are lower in Australia, with less than 1 violent death per 100,000 people compared to 1.7 in Canada, but both are much better than the US at a rate of 5.4. The incarceration rate is lower in Canada, with only 114 prisoners per 100,000 people in the population compared to 167 in Australia. And Canada is ranked 8th on the Global Peace Index compared to Australia at 12th. So while some of these rankings are close, overall Canada performs strongly here. Perhaps the most important category to consider is happiness. On the World Happiness Index, Australia is ranked 8th out of 141 countries. Canada scores almost the same, but has a final rank of 9th. The homeless rates are both high compared to other OECD countries. Canada reports a lower rate at 0.44% compared to Australia at 0.47%. Suicide rates are lower in Australia at just 8.5 people per 100,000 compared to Canada at 10. And finally, when it comes to public holidays and annual leave, full-time Aussie workers enjoy 31 days of leave, compared to most experienced Canadian workers at 25 days. Overall, I was surprised how closely these countries compare. With the 2 ties, both countries have 9 points. Canada is a little safer, but Australia is a little healthier. Australia has better universities, but Canada has better schools. Australia has higher taxes, but Canada has lower wages. Do you think Canada or Australia is more livable? Leave a comment below. This has been Alex from Lifelong Learners. Embrace curiosity.